This is an actual play of the tabletop role-playing game Trophy by Jesse Ross. The incursion we're using is the Flocculent Cathedral by Jim Crocker. The purpose of this recording is to demonstrate how Trophy works, to show you the kinds of stories you can tell with this game, and of course to entertain you. One quick note, I get a rule slightly wrong during play. On a ruin roll, you have to roll higher than your current ruin score for your ruin score to go up, not equal to or higher like I say in the recording. It's a fairly minor thing, but I thought it was worth pointing out. This podcast series is a production of The Gauntlet, with editing by Sam Dunwald. The music is Chalet by Maidan. You can support The Gauntlet and help fund more great shows like this at our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/gauntlet. If you're interested in Trophy, you can get the core rules of the game in Codex Dark 2, available on DriveThruRPG. If you'd like to try the Flocculent Cathedral, it can be found in Codex Hunger, which is also on DriveThru. We'll have links in the show notes. And with that, please enjoy Trophy, the Flocculent Cathedral. So, poor creature, Orlin, fallen to the fen, abandoned by the sisters, crawling, stumbling, lurching toward Cassian and the Flocculent Cathedral. Show us in flashback, please, why it was so important for you to humiliate the Chancellor of the Yogyakarta Lyceum.
We get a flashback of me during that trial, and it's like a mock parody of what was happening in that dream, except that it doesn't go so well in reality either. Instead of everybody cheering and stuff, I like bang down on the gavel, but then the court proceeding is like interrupted, and the Chancellor and the men come in, and they like shackle me and like berate me and drag me off to like the gallows and stuff. And instead of being imprisoned, they strip me of my stripes or whatever it is that judges have. And then they place me in like a role where I can do no ill will, which is a historian. And so my life up until this point has been to figure out who it was that framed me for these things, because I was only slightly corrupt, not for the things that they had me for, of course. And bringing low the Chancellor would be justice for me, or at least a little bit of revenge.
And what had you hoped to find at the Flocculent Cathedral that would help you do this?
The previous... Before he became Chancellor, he went by another name, and his crimes would be enshrined on something here that I would find, and that would be the vehicle of his destruction.
Good. Sadly, this will not come to pass, because you are now a mushroom-riddled half-slug creature stumbling about in the loam. I want to know, Basso, how do you feel when you see the holy path is destroyed?
I think I am determined to make what I can, and I'm desperately trying to push the pieces of Arona back together, like crawling, and whatever pieces of the statue are there, I'm just trying to push them together. Like maybe if I can get enough back together, just enough pieces, someone will save me.
I love it. I'm going to give you a roll on this. Before you take it, though, I want a ruin roll for seeing the destruction of the statues initially.
And I'm going to roll this pip die, which has been so good to me so far. It does not betray me this time, so okay. I do not go up.
It's good. I like that. And go ahead and let's talk about this action that you're taking. What apart from just pushing the statue back together, what do you hope to accomplish here?
What I hope to accomplish, because I know I'm about to die, is that this statue is intact enough for the next person that comes here.
Oh, good. Okay, I like that. I think what could go wrong here is that you do die, and it's a completely ignominious death.
I think that's
much like the corpses in the battlefield, right?
Perfectly appropriate.
Well,
yeah.
If anyone else has anything to add, I'm open to it, but...
I have a devil's bargain.
Let's talk about the die pool then. So what's your... Are you getting a light die here?
I have appraisal, foraging. Those are the two that I have that might even be vaguely related to finding pieces or judging how something is put together.
I'm into it. Yeah, I think it actually works. Yeah, I think the combination especially. So good. What's your devil's bargain, Fraser?
An owl comes and steals the sword, swoops down, takes it.
I think
decide whether you want to take that or not.
I think that's perfectly appropriate because my hope had been to leave the sword for the next person.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
and having that taken away, it's just one more thing. But I'm going to try.
2 light dice. Go for it.
A 4 and a 1.
I'm going to go ahead and add a dark die. Try to get a 6.
Yeah, let's see what happens. There's almost no chance you could fail, Lowell.
And you did.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I got a 6, but it's on the dark die.
Okay. But you do succeed. So, and you're lost, and we can talk about how you're lost in the epilogue, but you do succeed in putting the statue together at least. And of course, the sword will be lost, whether that's by owl or not. I'll leave that up to you.
As I'm getting like the last piece in place, and I'm like getting the sword, and it hurts to get the sword because it's all freaking sharp edges and so on, and I've been hugging it. It's wet with my blood. And that's when we hear that screech. And I don't even see if it's an owl or not. All I know is that the shadow passes over me of the sword and something flying away with it. And maybe like the owl sort of laughs.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Well, how about the statue, though? Like, how do you actually... Because you do succeed, right?
I put it together. I put the upper torso together here on the ground, and I glue it with my own blood.
Nice. And I actually really like the idea of, like, you know, because the swarm will be now all over you, right? Because the statues are destroyed. But I like that as you put the statue together, the swarm does part. It parts just enough for us to see you kind of there, desperately trying to put it together. Something from the swarm grabs the sword. Maybe the swarm just takes the sword. Who knows? Yeah. But it's gone. And it may be you interpret it as a screech of an owl because Orland talks about owls all the time.
Yes. Got owls in my head.
Owls in your brain. And we'll figure out what happens to you at the end, but you are lost to the fen. The only person who's reached the cathedral is Cassian.
Yeah.
Let's discuss it. The cathedral, as you approach, you can actually hear the hymn. It's like a hymnal, but it's the sound of the fen. It is like the chorus of bugs, but it's different. It's other animals. It's birds. It's frogs. It's the wind. It's the splashing of water. The cathedral itself is a natural grove of colossal, tightly packed trees, utterly overgrown with thick layers of moss and lichen many feet thick. They encrust the tiny gaps between the boughs of this structure, but you can peek inside just enough to make out a smooth altar of meteoric iron inside, a delicately wrought silver candelabra, intricate statues that make up the stations of the saints. And there's a heavy tome bound in verdant green leather and banded in intricately worked copper, resting on a smooth stone lectern. And surrounding all of it, stone pews draped in thick moss, decadent and somnolent. There are only 2 entrances into the Cathedral Cassian. A bell tower. The trees have formed a bell tower atop the structure, and there's a bell hanging there, in fact.
Okay.
Or there is a pool of water that likely feeds the well inside the cathedral. And you could dive underneath and try to reach the well. This would be a normal kind of setup for a structure like this.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I think I'm reminded of that dream, diving down into the pool of water.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed at seeing the book, because I'm pretty sure if my father had made it this far, he would have taken it with him.
Yeah, it's true.
But at least I can finish what he started out to do. So I dive into that pool.
And as you dive down, you see corpses. Corpses that look like they were also trying to dive down to get in through the well, but they perhaps got tangled up by the great roots of the cathedral. Do you take a moment to investigate the corpses? They are fairly fresh.
So I'm like underwater, and no, I think what I do is I sort of make note of it, and I plan to investigate them on the way out.
I want a roll to see if you can get into the cathedral.
Sure.
What could go wrong here, folks?
I think
The water could turn to mud.
I also like the idea of there's something that's like ice or glass up at the top.
Oh.
That it looks like you're going to be able to break surface, but you can't when you get up to there.
That's pretty good. I like that. Let's take a look at your dice. I don't think you're getting a light die to start based off your skills.
No, I don't think so.
What
None of
about...
those.
Because, yeah, no. Any devil's bargains, folks?
Are there any fish?
Sure.
I'm wondering if I can do something with inhabit.
Oh, yeah. That could be cool, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Changing the plan here?
Yes. Rather than dive down, I'm going to inhabit those fish.
Okay, nice. Okay.
And like kind of find the way ahead of me, because I mean, once you can only hold your breaths for so long, right?
Yeah.
So it's better to know the way. And you know, Castian's very into knowing the way with the map and the compass. So yeah, I think I'm gonna inhabit the fish.
Okay, I like this. Well, so let's backtrack then, and I kind of like the stated failed conditions. Like maybe you like you just think you're inhabiting the fish, but it's actually just you, and
Maybe
you
yeah.
suffocate underneath a film of glass, right?
Right.
What about devil's bargains here?
Maybe something that comes upon. Well, I guess it depends if it is her body or not. if it isn't, then something comes upon the actual body of the person.
Ooh, nice.
Well, the
I
happening.
think that's pretty good. I'm into it. Do you take that?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Okay. Pretty open-ended what comes upon you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got one light die. Go for it.
And I automatically do a dark die because it's original, right?
Indeed you do. Yeah.
5 light, 4 dark.
Hey, pretty good. You can add another dark and try again. Roll 3 if you wish. Since the dark die was
I
lower.
like the complication.
Okay. The complication is that one of the corpses caught in the tree branches are going to grab the fish. It animates, grabs the fish, tears it apart, probably provokes a ruin roll on you. But you otherwise can see the path, and whenever you want to dive in, you can dive in and get there. But
okay.
What's that like to inhabit the fish?
I think it's difficult because, you know, the stag was a weird forest monster, but, you know, it was also in the general shape of a mammal. And I don't think I've done this with a fish before. And it's very strange, and it takes a little while to get control of it. So like, even as I see, you know, that hand reaching for me, I don't have enough control to get out of the way. And
it grabs it and crushes the life out of the fish. Ruin roll for you.
Sure. 2.
Okay. And you snap out of it with just a hand being placed on your shoulder from behind. The hand is wearing your father's ring. And here I think I'd like to go ahead and just go to epilogues.
Yep.
Think for a minute about your epilogue. You can show us any point in the future. Show us what happens to your character. You can show us a different part of the world where your character's absence is noted or whatever. Yeah, it's up to you, though. Just try not to implicate the other characters. Kind of keep it focused on your character. Think about it for a moment, though, and whenever you're ready, go ahead and say so. Bearing in mind that 2 of you are lost to the fen.
I think what we see for my epilogue is a young woman, and we see her in her wedding dress, and we can see her getting married. We can see her going through that. She looks around maybe once or twice that maybe her brother, her older brother, would be here. But he doesn't show up. But at the same time, him not being here, him being dead, means that he doesn't bring with him those rumors about him being a grave robber. That doesn't come and taint her life. That was the whole reason he came here, was to clear himself of that so that she wouldn't be washed over because of that. And yet, when she goes to bed, she dreams of the fen.
Nice. Thank you.
I think there's no one left really to mourn for poor Orlin. But what does happen is, as he's wandering around as the mushroom beast thing, an owl comes and like pecks out his eyes and eats them. And then when the owl turns towards the frame, it has Orlin's eyes looking out.
Nice.
Nice. When Cassian turns to see his father, obviously his father is covered with purple fungus. And he screams and tears loose and dives into that pool. And when he gets into the cathedral, he notices that fungus is growing on him too. So he opens that book and he doesn't even read it. He just writes a little note in the back of it on like the final half blank page at the bottom. Just records, you know, his name, the date, and what's about to happen, because he swims back out and he tracks down the fungus creature that was his father. And he takes the tinder that He used to start campfires, and he starts one and like just makes this big circle around himself and his father. And he sits down and he's trying to talk to his father all this time and he doesn't have the translate skills, so it doesn't really work. But they sit there talking at each other in different languages and not understanding each other, but trying really hard until the flames close in and consume them both.
All right. Thank you.
Nice.
Let's go to stars and wishes. Stars, things that you enjoyed about the game, about the session, about the story, scenes, bits of role-playing, whatever you want. Wishes are things that you wished you could have seen in the story or that you wished you would have done differently. You don't have to have both. You can just have one if you wish. I'll kick off with stars and say that I loved the overall story. This is the third time I've run the Flocculent Cathedral, and this one always delivers. This incursion is so good. And individual stars for you all. I think you all did a great job of playing to your character and really, really getting into the basic tragedy of your story. I particularly felt that with casting at the end, especially, but also with Lowell's character, because it was there was something so completely like desperate and tragic and I don't know, like I just really felt it. Like I just really, really felt this like powerful, almost like crushing sense of like just not despair, but bleak sort of destitution, and I don't know. Yeah, it was just all that good stuff. And I actually really do kind of like the we sort of did it as a sort of like retcon, but I do like the idea of, in my headcanon, of Orlin frequently talking about the owls of the fen. Right? So, anyway, as far as wishes go, I don't think I really have any, except to say that I would have loved to have, I rarely get all the characters in the cathedral at the end. Usually they're gone by Ring 4, but like, but I would love to see the, as Ring 4 is written, or Ring 5 is written, you all get to the cathedral and the saints appear and kind of like turn you against each other, essentially. And I've gotten close to that outcome, but I'd like to see like what that really looks like in its fullness. But that said, I've always enjoyed the endings that I've gotten, so I can't really complain too much. But those are mine. Whoever wants to go next, take it away.
I'll say two things. They're so good. Let's say three things. One, I rarely get a chance to indulge in being as grotesque as I'm able to do. I don't usually run that kind of body horror stuff. Sherry doesn't care for it, and so it's nice to have that chance to do that. Number two, little thing. I like that at the beginning you said, don't give us your backstory. Just do your character. We'll get the backstory as we go along. And I like that you told us that like a little ways into it, because we were thinking about our backstory. And then he said, don't tell us about it. And I like that because then we had thought about it a little bit, but then we got it onto the table. And number three, I'm going to say, boy, everybody is so good at reincorporation and hitting on themes, like finding the themes and hitting them, and later on finding the beats. And this was one of those times where I thought you, Jason, Bethany, Fraser, all were able to bring those things back. It was so good in a tight environment. I really like that kind of thing.
I'd like to. I will throw in a shout out to the game itself, because that the incursion structure encourages this. Like it gets you to that point to some degree.
Yeah.
You and David talked about this on the podcast, like the idea of playing beyond the literal and how theme informs your role play. And you could see it, right? Like we were all being affected on an almost unconscious level, right?
Exactly. It's not overt.
Right.
At least it didn't feel overt or like the game was pressing me to do that. It gave me the space to do it. It gave all of us the space to play on those things. Yeah,
Jesse and Jed, that's a super intentional design. Jesse like very intentionally designed the game to do that, and it delivers every time. So
it does. Yeah. Wow.
Awesome. Any wishes or?
No, I don't think so. And usually I will stop and come up with them, but I'm going to say this was a really satisfying experience.
Awesome. Fraser or Bethany, any stars or wishes?
Stars for the eyes in the owl. The owl was this funny recurring thing the whole time until that last incredibly creepy moment, and then suddenly it was like, oh no, the owl is creepy and does belong here.
No, I agree completely. Yeah,
and got everything about Basso. Just like totally despicable and yet like not likable but pitiable character. I really liked, Lowell, you just kept playing into that and kept playing into that, and there was no redeeming moment for him right up until the end when he's like, oh, I'm gonna die but I'm gonna make it easier for the next person.
I found Basso to be sympathetic through most of it. Like there was something about Basso's like I could tell there was more going on, right? Like
he's overtly creepy, in that way, rather than being beneath the skin. He's actually really worse.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, there was something about the way you played it that made me feel somewhat sympathetic to the character, even though it was facially like very grotesque. But yeah, for sure. Yeah,
exactly. Like everything about him was revolting, and yet like also, you kind of rooted for him a little bit.
Yeah. Any wishes or?
I think it would have been interesting to see, more than one of us make it to the cathedral just to like have that final turn against each other thing. Yeah. But I think the way we were constantly like undermining each other and like subtly, all of those failed reduction rolls.
That was
like
the
that
killer.
Better.
Yeah.
Than that, like than a final overt showdown.
Right,
I almost like that, like kind of backstabbing thing better.
Yeah.
For this story, it seemed to fit better. But it also would have been really interesting to see like the final. Yeah,
the failed reduction rolls were a real killer. Like the fact that they didn't go off for you guys, it was like, oh shit, well I guess this is almost over. But
yeah, I was at 5 for I think 3 rings.
Oh yeah.
Any stars or wishes, Fraser?
Yeah, I really liked everybody's character arcs, and I liked getting invited to do all the horror aspects. Like I like the idea of giving us our conditions and inflicting that stuff and then riffing on it with the dreams and like figuring out kind of where our headspace was at, so that when the mushroom people came along, you were riffing on that again. It was really neat. And yeah, usually I'm not so into the body horror stuff, but I actually had this. It was actually pretty satisfying twisting the dream. And I felt like I just had more of a grasp on it this time than the previous time that I played. So I like that a lot. It was really fun. And I like that I got the owl at the
end. Gold star for the owl at the end.
Yeah. The owl was your halo jumping of this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and like I said, in my headcanon, I just imagine scenes where Cassian and Basso are like exasperatingly like kind of rolling their eyes as Orlin talks about the fen owls or whatever, right? Like,
like it's the one book about the area that he actually read.
right, exactly. Exactly.
A poor
The
historian.
bird guide, owls of the fen.
Owls of the fen.
And then my only wish would be to learn why the cathedral was flocculent.
Yeah, well, it was the moss on the outside. The thick layer of moss, that was the flocculence. The fluffiness.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a fluffy cathedral. Well, this was great fun. Thank you all so much for joining us. Listeners, we hope you enjoyed this program. And you can get your hands on Trophy and all of its various expansions right now by going to DriveThruRPG. The core rules are in Codex Dark 2, and the expansions are in successive issues of Codex. And we will be releasing a standalone book very soon. There will be a Kickstarter for a standalone book, decks of cards for quick character creation, and light, dark, and gold dice. What are gold dice, you ask? Well, you will find out in the future. Lowell, Bethany, Fraser, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for running it.
Yeah, thank you.
And listeners, thanks for going on this incursion with us. Take care.